gonna ask you guys, have you seen your grades for the past like case submissions?
Just for the first one, seems like it's been forever since we had another case graded.
All right. I don't know.
If you turn this one in, it'll be 4 that are not graded. So
yeah, it's a lot. So the reason I'm asking is because I didn't one of the first ones I didn't do very well. Like I got like half of the points, but I was unsure why, and I was kind of worried that it was like a time thing because I think we only met for like half hour or 40 minutes, so I don't know if that hurt my score because it said it was supposed to be an hour, but I don't know how strict he is on that. But that's what I was asking.
Huh? I don't know. That's kind of odd.
So, yeah, I don't know. It might have been the content, but I don't feel like it was. So that worries me.
You're right. So Derek, on our lesson 2, the Rent the Runway group discussion, we got like 5.56 out of 10.
Yeah, that's exactly what I got. And we didn't do that one together.
No.
We got that low grade on our. Was there a reason why?
I feel like it's. Did you guys meet for a full hour?
No.
See, no. I feel like that's why we got a lower score too. That's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I want to email the teacher about that one because maybe it's something along the lines of like we submitted it, so we just got like half the points, but they haven't reviewed the content yet. So maybe they'll bump it up.
Yeah, it could be that too.
Because I keep seeing announcements of him saying like you'll get an F grade initially, but then once we review it, then we'll bump it up. I don't know.
That's probably it.
It could be.
Is that so? That's our discussion. Oh yeah, because when we copy and paste and put it in the box, you mean?
Yeah.
I actually found something out this last case because there was one of the assignments on the page that I was very confused about, and it was like the discussion board, and it basically said that that's not an assignment. It's only for like if you need to communicate with your group. So it's not graded. Because I was like, what? Because I was so confused. I was like, what do we put in the discussion board?
I was thinking the same thing too. It was like, I don't, because like everything that we would put in the discussion board, we already discussed in person.
Yeah. Like we already did it. So, yeah,
I think those failing grades, because like it says it's the Rent the Runaway group discussion reflection. Like, because 2 of the questions are like you have to rate your partners, and then the other one is you have to post the link. So I don't think those get graded initially until they like view the video. So I would imagine those should go up.
Yeah, probably so.
I think so too.
It says group discussion reflection, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because that's what that was for last week. It was the group discussion reflection, and there was a specific message sent out that don't worry about the Fs.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
cool.
Okay. Clear. Good. I like it. I'm glad we're not failing. Although I am failing because I missed all of like first week because I was in Hawaii. That was bad. Oh well.
That was a bittersweet. I was in Mexico the first week, so I had to play catch up.
I tried doing homework, but I failed miserably.
Yeah, it's just not gonna happen.
Yeah. All right, let's get started here. It says we should start with an opening prayer. I'll say it this week.
All right.
Dear Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for this evening that we get to meet together and to discuss this case. We ask you to bless us with understanding and the Spirit as we discuss these concepts, and please bless us to learn and gather information from this case so that we can use these things in the future and understand further cases and further situations in business. And we pray for these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
All right, so far we've learned how to evaluate business models of startups. Today we will examine the business model decisions of a startup in a mature industry. that discussed the following questions. So, was the venture capitalist industry attractive for the for A16Z to enter in 2009? What was the competition like at the time?
Well, it seemed like, if I remember the case correctly, that in order to be successful, you had to be like in the top 5 or something like that.
Yep. Yeah, I remember reading that.
I think that was that around 2009.
Yeah, I think I was around that time. Yep.
As where that actual statement pertains and everything. And that was one of the things I wrote up. It's like, well, I mean, you had to be good, and that was one of the big things about whether or not this would be a successful company. And it seems like they were able to be very successful. So they had to really compete. So
yeah. I think it also says, so there's this thing here that says that the activity level of the U.S. venture capitalist industry as of 2013 was roughly half of what it was in the 2000 era. So
it was kind of dying.
Yeah, it kind of really wasn't doing a whole lot.
So it was like the .com bubble was originally doing very well.
Yeah, and there were a bunch of other, like, I remember it mentioned crowdfunding, like other ways that startups were getting funding other than VCs. And that's kind of taking into their market share.
Yeah.
So it's kind of seems like kind of a rough time to enter. It says, what was the typical fate of the new entrants in the industry, and why is this? What were the trends in VC fund performance during this time?
So I feel like if you weren't one of the top guys, it was very, very competitive for you.
Right.
And then they had kind of a big monopoly on the market, and they had all the money. They have all the money and the network and the guys that know how to plug you into different industries. If you don't have the resources like that, you're not going to do very well.
Yeah. Another thing here says that venture capitalists has delivered poor returns for more than a decade, and it compared them to the S&P 500. And it's like the VCs didn't make as much as like the market standard did, which is not very good.
Yeah, it's kind of sad.
To put in all that work and millions of dollars and to not get a good return. It's a bummer.
Yeah. It would have been better just putting it in the stock market.
Yeah, exactly.
All
right, let's see. We'll keep going on the next one. With all the entrenched incumbents and catch-22s, what silver lining did A16Z see? How did they plan to succeed in this difficult environment?
Wasn't that just because the silver lining was that they were structured different? They weren't this. They tried to kind of do their own twist on the.
Yeah, they were doing things like they were a little bit more busy. It was a little bit more of a vibrant office, and they kind of partnered up, which I guess was kind of against what most people did. And they also were aggressive in going after accounts and everything, which they even had criticism in there. Some companies were like, like we would never go this far and do this kind of thing. So that was one of the things I saw.
Yeah, I think, and this kind of goes back to all the initial questions that they are asking, the main questions of the case of like whether they should expand. Because I think because they completely restructured how VC companies were organized, like that's something they need to stick with because it worked. That's what got them to be such a huge force in that market.
Yeah. Makes sense, definitely.
I mean, that kind of to answer that question, it's just they reorganized how the VCs were structured. It's kind of crazy how that's all it took to make it work.
Yep, stranger things have happened, right?
Yeah. All right, so why is A16Z specifically targeting first-time technical co-founders?
That I don't know for sure. Maybe they just have a passion for helping people get started, I guess.
Yeah.
One of the things too that's kind of different in that industry is those are the ones that typically had the highest returns. Like if you actually got one to do well, it would do very well. So there's like a lot of reward in it.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, and they kind of stuck with what they knew. I mean, because again, one of the questions is whether they should expand geographically or try other markets. But like they knew tech, and they knew tech was really productive and that it would do well as long as they made smart investments. But they knew that like these tech startups were shaping the future, and that's what made them so successful.
Yeah. And for me, like I know I really started to gain confidence in their ability to expand because of the fact that they were able to bring in just in a couple of years, $1.5 billion, So
Yeah.
And then at the end of 2012, I guess they were even over 2 billion, So that is significant, especially for what they got going on. But I don't know if I'm jumping ahead too much, but
Yeah.
from my ideas.
Yeah, I think you're fine. It's kind of mostly talking about these questions are talking about like why are they getting technical co-founders? And I think it's because kind of along the lines of like these technical co-founders, these guys have either started their own tech company or have been CEOs of tech company, and to bring them on, like they know what the market is like. So they know what's going to work well and they know what investments are smart. So having that kind of insider information is super important.
Yeah, definitely.
And so one of the questions is on this point, it says that, well, did you guys already talk about like the cost of the startups that impact the VC advice, the venture capital industry?
No.
Oh, okay. So basically, like these type of startups were very pricey. They had a lot of barriers to entry, so you can't just they kind of were dependent on the venture capitalists,
right?
They also had a huge risk. Like a lot of these companies. So yeah, it's a high risk, high reward kind of situation. So and because of that, the VCs had to get a lot more capital.
Right. It's not like you can fund a tech company through crowdfunding or like a couple $1 million. Like you need a big old chunk.
You need a lot of equipment. You have to have people that are experts. They're not cheap.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
And I remember reading a part that said like some of these companies, you won't know if it was a smart investment until like decades later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that would be pretty difficult to be like, I guess we're just going to sit on this investment for years and see if they actually succeed because we can't do much.
Yeah, 10 years. That is quite a leap of faith. But companies that are able to last, I mean, that's I guess you got to do it. If you're going to do it, then you got to do it. So.
Yeah. I mean, I'm personally interested in like, and I'm sure these guys have tons more experience, but like because I'm sure there's thousands of new tech companies that are starting like every day. How do you know which one is going to be the next like big one? I don't know how they could possibly predict that.
I feel like it just comes down to an art. It just like being able to see it. But I mean, yeah, I feel like even the people that have done it, they don't really even have a clear answer for that. It's kind of like a gut feeling at times, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing I found interesting I read was that 40% of venture-backed companies fail. Like
40%.
Yeah, it says it on page 4 on the first paragraph there.
Yeah, it was 40.
Yeah, 40% of them fail, 40% return moderate amounts, and only 20% or less produce high returns. So you gotta be willing to accept the fact that like 40% of everything you invest is gonna tank.
But it said 1 in 5 is you hit the lottery too.
Yeah, so it all probably balances out plus some.
Yeah.
So you basically have to be used to failure then, within this market.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not very fun, in my opinion.
You would have to have some nerves of steel for sure.
I do not. I like the safe side.
Yeah, but that is kind of cozy and warm too.
The last question here says, do these trends apply to other sectors? The one that stands out to me is like the pharmacy or like what is it called? Like the pharmaceutical world. Like it's a huge startup cost, and a lot of sometimes their products don't work, and they have like testing. It's very risky, and a lot of them fail. I mean, because you're dealing with very sensitive products that could, they affect people's life. So,
well, you spend millions on research and development for years, and if they never actually figure it out, then
you're just done.
Yep.
You're out.
Yeah, that's a tough industry to kind of predict what will happen.
So the next one would be, what choices do technical founders have for financing that they didn't have a decade before? So the big one for me is the crowdfunding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if this even pertains or not, but the fact that the online market has seemed to be more accessible now, would that be part of it, you think?
Yeah, I think so.
You could do more work online now. I don't know, just one thing that I was thinking about. In fact, it said in there that they underestimated that, and then I guess because I think even the cost of using online went down or something like that, and that they were able to take advantage of all that opportunity.
Yeah.
Right.
The biggest thing too is one of the biggest things that venture capitals give to their clients is it's not only the money but the expertise, like the networking.
Yeah.
A lot of that, like if you use a crowdfund, you could do networking online. You wouldn't need a venture capitalist. Like you could definitely find people through your own resources. You don't really have to use them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure that might be a little difficult to do, to find people who are truly experts in certain industries. Which I feel like that's why A16Z worked so well, is because they developed this network of hundreds of professionals who are like, hey, are you in this little niche market? Well, here we have somebody in our company who can help you out, and that works really well.
Yeah, definitely. I know if I was a startup, I would definitely need some kind of counsel before I got going, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's overwhelming. You don't know what to do. Everyone's trying to. A lot of people are greedy. They'll rip you off if they can. So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always fun.
So let's move on to 4.
Mm-hmm.
It says VC firms compete on their ability to source, pick, win. How does A16Z's business model influence these abilities compared to other VC firms?
What is the source? I'm trying to figure out what they mean by source. Like, the source as in like use your team to get the right resources together.
Here, let's see if I remember it saying something like that in the thing, but let me look. Source.
Is this about picking clients to invest in, or helping clients?
It says to succeed as a VC, you have to do 3 things very well: source, pick, win. You have to have the best source. You have to source the very best deals.
Okay.
So I guess it's like it's your ability to like filter out the ones that are good and not good.
Yeah.
Like your criteria.
Right.
Almost.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Like, I mean, you could have a million different companies asking for funding, you've got to cut that down to like 1,000. And then from that 1,000, you've got to pick the like 10 really good ones.
Or with a really good deal, or they can pick, kind of detail it down.
And it also said inside the reading that they would kind of have, it was like interviews or something where they would come in and talk about it, and if they turned a company down, they would try to give the company feedback to help them.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's one way in which they were trying to be careful on how they did business.
Yep.
Let's see here. So should we go on to the next one?
Yeah. This whole industry was always weird to me because you just have these mega funds, big banks, like just trying to give out their money, and it's like it's such like a sign of the times that we're just in a world of all this. There's a lot going on.
It is kind of crazy. But I mean, like, the only way to get this kind of funding and money from these people, it's like just like when you go to the bank for your business, like you have to have a solid business plan, or else they're not going to fund you because they think you're going to default.
Yeah, it's a risk.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Now we're beyond. How will this change if a 16Z begins to fire CEOs because they're not performing well? Will this decrease, or have no effect on the number of potential deals a 16Z sees compared to the competition?
Well, if it starts letting go of CEOs because they're not performing well, like you're losing their network.
Yeah.
They know so many people. Like you, in a lot of these things, if you lose the main guy that knows everyone, like you're done.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I like, again, how they are careful who they do work with. You know, it's kind of like they're picking an employee. You know, like when a company will do several interviews with somebody before they finally bring somebody on.
Yeah.
They're kind of doing that with the people that they choose. I think they wanted to make sure that they have the opportunity that they have a really good feeling about an individual that they bring in. So in that case, I think it'll help them against the competition. But then we never know what's going to happen, and so that firing might happen. I mean, it might not be the most positive message, but if they're not going to be able to perform, then at some point you might have to get rid of them.
Yeah, I mean, you can't keep on the not so great people. That's just going to keep hurting your business.
Yeah, very true.
Because I mean, their whole thing is the bottom line too. Like they need to make money.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it says, how does the operating team help A16Z source pick win?
Let's see here. Well, they, I mean, they're set up in such a way to, I think, to know exactly who to bring in. I mean, I admit at this point of the paper, I kind of started to zone out. So I don't know all of the details on what they were doing there, but I know that they were organizing a very solid group that could do this.
Yeah, I think one of the big differences between this company and others was that like they created a big team. They had a bunch of staff and a lot of like lower level staff who they could rely on to work with these companies and to make sure that they had close relationships with these companies, and so that like they didn't lose touch with their clients. Because like it talks about other VCs where they had like their silver gorilla who was like the know all, say all, make all decisions, and if he didn't approve it, then it didn't happen. But like I said, this one is more like you've got your general partners, you've got limited partners, and then you filter down to like the individual professionals. And those are the main operating team guys who are going to go out to the companies and work with them and give them advice and make sure that everything is running smoothly.
Yeah, very true. Very, very true.
And then plus too, like if you have the operating team that's very qualified, they'll be able to have the foresight, be able to create the models that they need to do, like be able to forecast the wealth of the company. Like if someone's off on those numbers, it could be way different in the end.
Yeah. Like there's this paragraph here that talks about like how they're not. I'll just read it. It says, "We are not training wheels for startups. We do not do things for companies that they must be able to do for themselves. We don't hire for them or run their PR. We don't raise their next round. We don't have designers we can sign to them. We're building a network and we're plugging them into that network, which is not the same as servicing them."
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of goes back to the networking thing. I mean, seems like the basis of the entire company is they're creating this huge network of people that they can pull from, and these companies can pull from too.
Oh yeah, it's smart.
Yeah.
See
here, are we on? We're on 5 now, right?
Yeah, we're on 5.
We have to vote as a group on whether or not whether or not we agree with their idea to double. I know on the paper, I put on there that I have a lot of confidence in these two, and it seemed to me that they haven't really failed yet. And so my vote is that they just go ahead and go for it. I mean, they could try to play safe, I suppose, but I kind of think that's the market's there and it's open for them, and it's kind of a no risk it, no biscuit type of thing, you know. But that's just my feeling, you know. That's also based off the limited knowledge I have on venture capitalism, but right. They've amassed so much, and so why not? I mean, do it careful, but why not? You know, just get a big group of people and try to push it out of Silicon Valley and try other markets as well. You know, if it's working. So that's just my idea. But
I agree with you on that. And then one thing says whether to seek to double your assets under management. So I assume that's meaning more like the pool of money that they can use, or are they talking about the assets as in like businesses that you're like helping out?
I think it's doubling the amount of money they have available to invest.
Available capital, yeah. And so in that case, like just because you double it doesn't mean like you can still use it wisely. You don't just have to go out and you don't have to double your decisions. You just have to be frugal and pick quality, but you could just have more of that. So I think I agree with that we should just do that.
Yeah. I was kind of actually leaning on the side of the other side of like, because they asked a lot of questions where like if you're going to double your capital, does that mean we have to double the partners, and does that mean we have to double our operating team? Like, would we be able to handle all this stuff if we're doubling everything when we already have a pretty big kind of company? But like I feel like they would be able to pull it off as long as they stay true to like who they are as a company. If they make sure that the criteria for bringing new people in stays the same, like yes, you're doubling your operating team, but like you still have to be really picky about who you bring on.
There's one thing too. It's because a lot of this is networking. The more deals they do, the more they network. They're meeting more people. They're building their network. Therefore, in the future, it's easier for them to do it because they have more people along the way that they've collected. In the end, they have a lot, and they can easily. It's not as hard for them because they have the people there, and they don't have to look, and it's just plug and play.
Yeah, it would just kind of build itself as you build them. I mean, the networks are kind of designed. They just, if you have the right people, it just expands on its own.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, my only concern is if they get overwhelmed by the fact that like, oh, we have to double everything, and this is like getting too big. But I think
working harder to make less money, like that's the risk.
Yeah, I kind of feel like based upon what I'm reading that they're smart, and things were to start going the wrong way, that they would be on it like that.
Yeah.
You know, this is not like the last case where they were scrambling, being foolish and pushing something that's not going to last. You know, so I think they would. So I'm confident in that regard, but you still have to be careful, you know, to a certain degree as well.
Yeah. So that's some like how many portfolio companies can one general partner reasonably support?
I don't know.
Could be a lot. Like it just depends.
Depends on also the personnel you have under you as well, right?
Yeah, if you're a general partner and you have like really good limited partners, which I don't know the structure of these things, but it seems like it goes from like general partner to limited partner to professionals to like the network.
And the guy on top is just collecting commissions on everyone else.
Yeah. So if you've got a really good support system as a general partner, you should be able to handle quite a few portfolios.
Yeah. Agree. Yeah.
I think they should.
Sorry.
They should be able to make it work. I mean, because it also asks, will you have to hire more operating team people? Well, yes, but
probably not necessarily double. But yeah,
they've just got to be the right people.
You're gonna have to hire enough right people to be able to take care of that, but I like their approach because it's very much kind of against the grain a little bit, because I've heard that another venture capitalists, they kind of keep the numbers down, I believe, right?
Yeah.
You know, so this is kind of going against the grain, but it's working, and so if you're trying something new and it's working, then I think that's a very positive thing.
Yep.
I agree.
I like it.
And then this is the note on the very bottom is the one that I was talking about. That says the discussion board is used to communication between group members, and so it says you can use email or text. So I was so confused, like the first three activities, like what is this discussion board?
Yeah, I was worried that I was like, because like I think earlier this week I looked at the discussion board for Cake Financial and I was like, what in the heck am I supposed to put on this thing? Like,
yeah,
I have no idea.
Well, cool. I'm like this. This is good. But I feel like we got to. It says at the end of the meeting, take a time to give a summary of your votes. We already did that. So we all voted. Expanding.
In favor.
Yeah.
And then this company's not good enough. I don't know what is. You know. So.
Yeah, I mean, what else can they do? But I feel like they have a better chance than anyone else.
Yeah.
Yep. So, all right, sweet. I like it. Nice work, team.
Nice.
All right, guys.